Welcome to Pull the Pin Already, a place where average veterans come to share their views on the world we live in. We can't promise you'll like what we have to say, but we'll promise it's genuine. I'm Jim.
And I'm Mike.
It's time to pull the pin.
Let's go.
All right, Mike, what do we got on the topic today?
Topic for discussion today, Jim, something near and dear to our heart, life after the military.
Ooh.
Yeah.
For some of us that comes quick. For some of us, it takes many years.
Oh, yeah. How was it for you?
Oh, well, it's a little different because like when I think of life after the military, I made the transition from active duty to reserves.
Oh, okay.
So there was...
Wow, I never knew that about you.
It was still a connection, but I could talk about the specifics of just making the transition itself. So do you want to start with this or you want me to go ahead and get it started?
Oh, I'll start with it. Life after the military, man, that's hard. It's hard. It wasn't necessarily hard for me because I think I shared this with you sometime in the past about how I just had to let it go. I had to do a cold turkey, let it go, try not to mention the military, think about the military. This is civilian life. Nothing's going to be like the military. And I can honestly say, boy, was I wrong. Because once I got out, I was on what do they call that back then? Terminal leave? I don't know if they still call it
Terminal leave. That's when you still have time left.
Yes. And I was double dipping, what they call double dipping, because I started working for the Federal Bureau of Prisons. So I was working as a CO in the federal prison, and I was still on terminal leave.
So they liked you so much from your last visit, they hired you?
Yeah. They said I was a model inmate. Yeah.
Awesome. I love it. Well, let's break it down. Like, I think this ties in great to like what we always talk about, even like a disclaimer and whatnot. We all have different experiences.
Yeah.
I mean, we all came into the military with different skill sets, different backgrounds, different tools, like they say, to deal with different things. So our life after the military could be very different depending who you're talking about.
Right.
Also, it could be very different depending on what your service was like.
Yeah.
So let's draw one common similarity that everyone in the military experiences, and that's what I call basic training.
Yeah.
So we've all been to some sort of basic training, whether it's, the Army's boot camp, or if it's the Marine Corps', kumbaya circle that makes you love each other,
right.
Or if it's the Navy's bicycle ride, whatever it is, I'm sure the Air Force is probably online, right? They did online training.
Right.
Whatever it is, I'm just kidding, guys. Don't hate me.
Yeah.
So whatever it was, the concept was the same. They brought you out of the civilian world, problems and all. They stripped you down of as much as they legally possibly could. They forced you to live in the environment. And then they took whatever it was, 8 weeks. What did we do? 16 weeks? What was 8 weeks for basic, 16 for AIT, right?
Yes.
So they took at least 8 weeks and they retrained you to do what their mission was.
Yes.
So just think about that alone. That process is called reconditioning.
Mm-hmm.
And 8 weeks is long enough to make new habits.
Right.
And under the circumstances, those habits will be reinforced because you're in the environment constantly.
Yes.
So think about that. You take somebody out of their civilian world, put them through that. What do you think is going to happen when you let them out and there is no 8-week reintroduction to the civilian world?
Right. And I think that's probably why during our time, they I don't know what it's called now, but they had ACAP. Mm-hmm. So to slowly, like, I think there was like 6 months when I was getting out, or maybe a year. No, it wasn't a year because I got out right after you. So, and go ahead.
If I remember, ACAP though was more classroom kind of. It was informational
like,
more than.
Yeah, it was online back then, like an online version. Let's say you're going to the classroom, but it was to try and get you ready as best they could.
Right. I would
all
love
the while
to see,
keeping you, you're still doing your soldier duties.
I would love to see the military go more to something like a purchase of a housing complex or something, and bring all the veterans in for the last 6 months of their tour, bring their families in if they can, whatever, and just start the actual living civilian life. You know, I mean, I know it's probably money, it's, you know, whatever,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
you might save in the long run because I think we have a very high homeless veteran population,
Sure do.
very high suicidal veteran.
Yes.
We got a lot of
Yes.
veterans with PTSD.
Yeah.
I mean, so I think that cost would probably come off the back end and you'll save a lot of lives.
Yeah. And I think a lot of the veterans of old who committed suicide had what we now call PTSD or
Sure.
some type of what do they call it, MTBI, you know, mild traumatic brain injury, I believe it
Right.
is. Yeah. So and but now we know about these things, but you know, let's call it what it is. The Vietnam vets, they weren't privy to a lot of the things that today's vets are. And we
Oh,
can say in 20 years from now, those vets are going to be privy to things that the guys getting out now
Mike,
are
20
not
years
privy
from now, soldiers aren't going to be fighting the wars.
to. Yeah, it's true. But you know, working that joystick on those,
Right.
yeah, that's hard work.
Right.
You know,
Carpal tunnel.
yeah.
No more video games at
No, we
home.
respect you guys. We really do.
Yeah. So
But
I have
it
to.
is an adjustment, man. And I think a lot of people, when I say my intent was just to let it go, because I was
Mhm.
talking to a lot of people, talking to family, and I knew it was going to be a hard adjustment. But the funny thing is, Jim, excuse me, the funny thing is, when I got to my job and starting my new career path, everyone was a veteran.
Right.
Yeah. So there's a lot of camaraderie there, if you will. You
Right. Well,
know?
that's actually a good thing, though. I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
I think it's a
absolutely.
good thing because that's a soft transition.
Yeah.
Because you
Yeah.
have a lot of things the Army gave you, but you're really a civilian.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think your experience is a real a blessing because it was a soft transition.
Right.
I
Right.
didn't have that soft transition.
Mm.
And I can tell you, you know, when I spend most of I spent 10 years active duty, that was on constant high adrenaline. You know what I mean? Even when you're not in combat, I mean, you're still constantly being stressed to high levels
Yeah.
throughout the week. I mean, very seldom. I believe that has a lot to do with why a lot of military guys turn to things like alcohol and,
Yeah.
you know, stuff like that because they're in constant stress,
Yeah.
even if it's not in combat.
Same thing with police officers.
Right, right.
But
But I, you know,
we'll keep it with the vets right now.
right,
You know.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
And there's a similarity. You know,
Yeah.
there's
It
definitely a
absolutely
cross
is. Yeah.
between the two. Right.
Yeah.
But like you were saying, not all of them, I can't speak for all of them because they all haven't experienced the same thing. Some guys
Right.
go to, you know, to work in the Army or in the military, they go to work and their job is so easy
Mm-hmm.
that they don't have any of that stress that, you know, other units, other people have. So
Right.
their transition, and I don't pick on the Air Force, but I like to use the Air Force as an example because when people join the Air Force, except for a few fields, most of them are really joining a job
Yeah.
and they're just in the military
Right.
because their environments are usually relaxed. And when they get out of the military, they've got these skills that just slip right into a job. I mean,
Right.
that's not all of them, obviously, but there
Right.
is a lot of crossover there. So, but then when you go look at like Marines are buried in combat maneuvers. They're buried
Mm-hmm.
in camaraderie and they're buried in this stuff.
Yeah. That's a
So,
life.
yeah, so that becomes your life. And anytime you're doing something for such a long period of time, it will become your identity.
Yes.
It will be your purpose in life.
And it's almost like you can't relate to anything else.
Right. And
Yeah.
then when you're out of the military, you're stripped of all that.
Right.
So now you're at home, and whether you've got a network or not, whether you've got resources or not, you're still stripped of everything you had when you were in the military.
Right.
Just like when they brought you in, but without the training to go out
Yes. To bring you in, they stripped you of your identity
and
and
trained
made you.
you,
Yes.
but they didn't
But
do that in reverse. They stripped you
right.
of your
Right.
military identity, but they
Right.
just sent you out to the wild.
Exactly. It's almost like you have to find another career or another job where you have that military-like structure, you know, and I think like working for the government is one of them,
Right.
you know, being a police officer is one of them. Dare I say, maybe firefighters too, but you know, we'll talk about that
Uh,
another day.
yeah, I don't know. You know, I mean, I got mad respect for firefighters, but I'm just not going to go there and say because their schedules tend to be a little bit too relaxed. When they're in the
Well,
heat of the moment, I
yeah.
get it.
Now I will say this: their schedule is relaxed, but not for all of them. because it's relaxed. But some of them, oh man, this is gonna sound bad. Probably would say they.
Do you want to go there?
Yeah, I have to.
Okay,
I
all
have
right,
to because they understand. They know,
sure.
as a former police officer, I have a guy that I work with. He's a, part-time firefighter. He does all the training, fight fires, and we throw jabs at each other all the
Wait a
time.
minute. Firefighters trained to fight fires?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that's that's
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
that's good
Even
training.
even the part-timers, yeah, yeah.
Good training.
See, part-time police officers, they don't do any training.
Not even traffic control?
No, no,
Oh,
no. Just mall cops.
all
Yeah.
right. So they
But
ride
no,
segways.
yeah. But no, as far as that stress, like what you're talking about, I think it's an additional stress because you're used to that stress in the military, right? It's still stressful, but then when you get out, you don't have that structure, so it becomes more stressful because now you're in essence you're being told, okay, you can think freely now, do whatever you want,
Are you
fend
still
for
using
yourself.
you're using the firefighter example?
Yeah, pretty
But
much.
I think they walk into a network. I think they walk into a camaraderie that's above and beyond because
Mm,
those guys cook for each other. They sleep, in the same
yeah, that's true.
firehouse. So I do
Yeah.
feel like they have a bonus with that part of it.
Yeah, that's true. I never really thought about it like that because
Right.
they eat, sleep, and they live with each other for
Right.
those
And
42, or 48 or 72 hours or whatever.
right. And
Yeah.
there is somewhat of a structure because they have to take turns cooking and things like that. And
Yeah, and
so
cleaning.
right. Washing,
Oh,
yeah, scrubbing toilets.
they're gonna get on here and, oh man, they're gonna get us.
All right. So life after the military isn't just about being a firefighter.
Right. And
But
cleaning and cooking. Yeah.
but it is an example of how a transition could be actually smoother.
Yeah.
And I think like in your scenario too, where you go work with a bunch of veterans, at least you retain that camaraderie and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
But you also have to look at another thing where I think you mentioned earlier about like the traumatic brain injuries and things like that. You got to remember that most of the vets coming out, especially now, are coming out with physical and mental injuries.
That's right. Yeah.
So think about that. So you're not only losing your identity from the military, you're using a support network and structure, you're losing a bunch of camaraderie, you've also got to deal with your own injuries.
Mm.
So I think your network should be strong. And I don't think a lot of people have a strong network. I'm just guesstimating here because there is a homeless problem, overdose drugs, suicides. That would lead me to believe that these guys don't have a good network.
Mm.
So I think the network really is important. And I think either it's partly up to the military to do that, or if you're lucky enough, the community. And I think you can find a nice community, but I want to give you like a personal struggle that I have.
Okay.
Because I did this. I came out of the military with all those things we just talked about. So I had a little bit of a higher expectation of my community. I kind of thought, being a neighbor was like being a battle buddy or being next to a guy in a foxhole because guess what? We're on the same street. We've got to look out for each other. So I kind of had that expectation. But I found out really quick that even though my neighbors may wave to me, they don't give a damn about what's going on in my life.
No.
And I'm not going to say that for all, but that's the reality of it. And that kind of shocked me a lot.
Mm. So what do you believe you were expecting from these neighbors?
Well, I was expecting for one, I don't ever I know you talked about before, like the hero status. I don't ever look at me as a hero, but I do expect people to understand that, hey, this guy was in the military. And I think everybody looks at the military kind of one way or another, maybe, or maybe people have their own judgment of it. But I think when people talk about military, they associate it with war. They may not think you're a hero, but they know you weren't out there having a picnic.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I have to assume that people think that the military involves some sort of struggle. Maybe not the sacrifice. Maybe they won't recognize the sacrifices genuinely as they maybe you wish they would. But they have to recognize that you're something. I mean, think about it. There's military discounts. There's, all these programs helping the vets. People are very aware what military people go through. So,
No, I would disagree with that.
No?
No, generally speaking, what I've witnessed, observed, whatever, is if you're not near a military base, they don't know.
Really?
And I'll go out on a limb and say a lot of them, unless they know someone who personally who was in the military, they generally don't care. And I'm not saying it like they're wrong. It's, you care about what you know about, let's say, right? So these people, they're like, hey, oh, you in the military? Oh, okay. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's like there's no, hey, thanks a lot for your service. But in a military town, like where I am right now, oh yeah, people say thank you for your service. And sometimes in a military town, you get less of that because you'll be saying it to damn near everyone that walks down the street.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like a catch-22, if you will. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. I don't look at people as unpatriotic in any way. We're not talking about that. But for someone like you who's coming out and you had maybe some expectation from the neighbors, then I get it. I get it. When you use the knowledge of being in a foxhole with them, I get it. I get it. But me, I was very standoffish.
Really.
Yeah, yeah. And
And maybe you're right. I think a lot of I have just, they're from veterans in my neighborhood, and they are that. They're the garage guys. They just sit in the car, build the car or whatever in the garage.
Yeah.
But I literally went to every house in my immediate vicinity and introduced myself. Like I literally went to say hello to all my neighbors.
Wow, you're talking about where you are now?
Where I am now.
Oh, is there like a military base around? Or?
No.
Oh.
I just thought that's what you're supposed to do. I thought, we're living like this close.
Yeah.
We're sharing a fence, some of us.
Right.
Maybe we did be a little involved in each other's life somehow.
No.
I just thought that was the way, and I was shocked.
And I understand why you thought that. I really do. Even from not even military, man. It's just if you watch some of the old movies, someone moves into the neighborhood, you bring them a dish.
Right.
That's being neighborly, right?
Right.
That's the community. It's just like maybe a couple of months ago, the guy up the street saw my kids riding their bicycles, and he said, "Hey, man, I have a larger bike that they'll grow into. It's a girl bike, so he gave it to my daughter, and that's community."
Right.
He didn't sell it. He didn't put it on Facebook or whatever to make some money. It's like people in the community taking care of each other. So I get it. I really do. But once again, generally speaking, no, that's not reality. It's not.
Well, I was very shocked about what reality was.
Right.
I'm not going to sit here and say that my neighbors aren't good people.
Right.
I just kind of expected, I thought my neighborhood was like a military base. I expected that. I expected to find, connection, even with the veterans in the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was thinking like, oh, well, these are veterans. I'm a veteran. Hey, man, we ought to hang out and because we can relate. But it's not like that. It's just not like that.
It's a shame that it's not.
Right. Because I think that would help the transition.
Yeah, it would. It would help the transition and it would help the community as a whole.
Right.
But I think just to reel it back in, as far as life after the military, a lot of people, I've heard people use the term, well, it's what you make of it. No, it's not that easy.
Right.
And it's not that, it's not that simple. Some people need a lot of help in that transition. You know what I mean? And when you don't get that help, then PTSD might take over.
Sure.
That stress level takes over. And then they start to do things we hear about in the news.
And one of the things,
No, locally news,
Right.
local news. You won't hear it on the mainstream either.
One of the things I like to talk about is, when we look at our prison system, or we look at even the military in combat and war, what is the worst punishment you can give somebody? Solitary confinement.
Oh, yeah, inside
solitary
the prison.
confinement, because even the worst prisoners get put in a little box by themselves.
That's right.
So when you confine people to themselves when they're not trying to be them to themselves, you are creating more mental stress and problems in people. Now, I don't think it's everybody's job to be like, hey, there's a vet, let me go, but they have to understand that, at some point, if you're not interacting with your neighbors or you're not, you're creating more of a, hey, do these people not like me? Is there something wrong with me? And, before, I used to have buddies all around me. And even if I didn't like somebody, we fought together and we had a common goal. And then all of a sudden, the veteran, starts to feel alone. you start to feel like you're doing something wrong.
Right, right.
And I think that creates more stress and more problems on you, and it can lead to things like the alcohol abuse and
Yes.
stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's been a very hard transition, and I really, in this part, I guess, I'd rather make people aware who weren't in the military that you don't have to go out of your way, but just recognize you could be saving a veteran's life by at
That's
least
right.
giving him some attention
Yes.
because he's used to having camaraderie.
Yeah.
You
And,
don't have.
and it's as simple, it can be as simple as a wave, you
Yes.
know? It's something very simple. It doesn't have to be,
Yeah.
going over, and watching a movie together or anything like that. No, it's just
Right.
simple.
Right.
Simple, some social connection of some kind.
Right.
It makes them feel normal,
Right.
normal. And it means a lot. It does. And I don't know how long it took for me to break out of that standoffish, because I went from military to Federal Bureau of Prisons to uh, being an own business owner. Then I went to being a police officer. So I always had that structure.
Did you just
Not,
run down your whole LinkedIn profile or what?
yeah, pretty much,
All
pretty
right.
much. Go check it out there, buddy.
I hope the picture's as handsome as the one right there.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, you look better, man. That was years ago.
Back when
But
you
no,
had
I've
more
always had
hair?
no, you don't have any of that. None of that.
Oh,
No. But no, I always had that structure, you
right.
know. So a lot more freedom than the military, but it's still, as a CO, things were structured. Law enforcement, I was always in law enforcement. It's more structured than your average job, or
And,
average career.
and you know what? I'm going to try to keep it real. And this is just my opinion. I'm going to keep
Right,
it real. The Army took care of us. I mean, to the point where some things we didn't have to worry about.
right,
You didn't have to worry about finding a doctor. You went to
right.
one hospital. You went to one clinic. You didn't have to worry about even cooking.
Yeah, you didn't have to worry about where your next meal was coming from.
Right. You didn't have to
Right,
worry about what you're going to do next.
right,
You didn't have to worry about standing around on board.
right,
So you're kind of, you're making big boy decisions out in combat. So you're overcoming fear to do brave things that most people wouldn't do,
hmm,
but you're kind of spoiled on the other end.
right,
And I think that trade-off is because once you flip it and you get out, now there are really less big boy decisions to make, but then there's more taking care of yourself.
mm,
So I don't want to sound stupid, like I'm some naive, I can't take care of myself kind of person, because I can always find a way to survive.
right.
But
And that's
I
another
think,
thing you were trained to do.
right, but I think survival is not the way you're supposed to live.
Right.
And I think we find ourselves surviving because
Mm,
we don't function without all that structure that we had.
right.
And I think that causes another problem with like the mental side of it that I said. So, surviving is not good enough for us.
No,
There has to be a
no.
mission. There has to be something that we're trying to obtain.
A
And
purpose.
survival, a purpose, right?
Right.
Survival is what we do when times are hard, but we're still going toward that objective.
Right.
And
Yep.
I think when you get out of the military, you kind of lose that.
Yeah. Because going back to the beginning, the first statement, we weren't trained once we exited the military. At
Right.
least, like I said, I don't know how it is now. I think it's much better now. I think they start the ETS process or out process a year out now, and they start to wean them off of certain requirements like formation. I think they only have to go to formations, and as you get closer and closer, they, slowly but surely the soldier disappears.
Right. Right.
Yeah, that's
And
what I've heard. I haven't seen it personally.
sometimes I'll say right off the bat, when you do get out, there could be some momentum behind that helps you, hit the civilian world because you're so anxious to get out. I mean, you
Yeah,
could probably attest to my story because
right,
it was Fort Hood where I got out, and it was because
right,
of all
right.
that drama that I
Hmm.
did get out. So that kind of propelled me into, you know what? I don't care what's ahead of me. It's better than what I'm going through.
Well, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this. Not talking about life after the military, but just before life after the military, what you went through helped solidify my decision on getting out.
Right.
Yeah,
And
because
that's kind of the same thing because now it changes your mentality.
yeah,
I always joke about that, but I always tell people the two best decisions in my life are joining the military and getting out of the military.
right. That's good. That's good.
Right. So
Yeah.
those are my two best decisions. And
Yeah.
I really do appreciate everything I've learned through the
Oh,
military.
forget about it. Yeah.
It's done a lot for me. But I
Yeah.
think a lot of guys can attest that once you get to that midway point, it's the dynamics change.
Yeah.
And when you've served so long, I mean, 10 years is a long time to serve in one place or not one place, but one
Right.
career.
Right.
And no matter where you go, the job could be different, but the demands are still pretty high.
Exactly.
So it could take its toll on you, but it also has solidified so many things that you
Why do
have to
you
break.
Why do you think there's constant stress in the military?
I think it's because we always need to be alert. I think
Mm,
complacency is our biggest enemy in the military. And
yeah.
I say that from an aspect of not just when we're at war, because even when you're at war, it's pretty obvious. The enemy can come from anywhere. But
Right.
even back here, you've seen incidents on bases, on installations. Somehow you can still be the target in your own country, safe on your own installation.
Mm-hmm.
So I
Yeah.
think you can't ever get complacent. So you have to always stay sharp.
Right. And for that reason, I would tell our military brethren and sistren out there, please, please, please seek counsel if need be. Right. First and foremost, if you're getting out, there are a lot of groups out there for you to maintain that camaraderie, so that will lessen the stress. And then I did it after 3 years, 3 or 4 years after I exited the military. And it helped me tremendously
I'll
just to
go.
have that camaraderie there.
I'll go a step further. Go get counseling whether you think you need it or not.
True.
I will tell you
Yeah.
just to give you an outlet in case you don't have that network that you need or you
Right.
can't find that network. Go get some sort of counseling and go find all these organizations. I mean, there's plenty of them out there now
Yes.
that they
Yes.
facilitate this transition.
And
So
don't believe that you're the only one that's going through it or have gone through it.
and
Believe me, there are a lot of veterans like yourself out there to this day, and there's a lot who have come before you, and those that came before you helped to get these programs and networks in place.
right, and don't let your pride in the way and think that,
That's
oh,
right.
I'm tough, I don't need this stuff, because
No,
it's not tough to deal with this stuff on your own when you shouldn't have to.
that's
That
right.
doesn't make you
That's right.
tough. That makes
Right.
you adding stress to your life that's unnecessary.
Yeah, because especially what adds more to it, and I don't want to say less stress, more stress because of family members and things like that. But when you have those little mouths to feed, those additional family members, then you have to get a paycheck to put a roof over their head. That's your responsibility.
Well,
So please, there's a lot of programs out there for you.
well, let's dive into what you just brought up because family. I think families. I think it's an important element of this. I mean, if you've been in the military with a family, there may be some sort of a smaller transition, because they've kind of went through the tough part with you. Usually they're
Yes.
supportive and they get the kind of how the military works. But there's some people who, have been in the military but never been on a deployment. Then they go on a deployment, then they come home, and all of a sudden their world could be wrecked because their
Yes.
family has no idea.
Right.
And
Right.
I could give you a personal story where I went into the military. In the beginning, that's a whole story. But when I went on a deployment, I was already in the reserves. I got reactivated. I went on deployment. And you're talking about somebody who's already been out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
That deployment was crushing for me. I mean, and just to sum it up, I'll put it this way. I trusted the people at the end of the barrel more than the people behind the barrel.
Wow.
And it was damaging. I mean, it damaged my trust and everything. But what I was getting at is I went in the military. Got deployed while I was dating this girl, wonderful girl. I mean, probably the first love of my life, and to this very
Right.
day. When I came back, she expected to pick up right where we left off and not have to deal with what I just went through.
Right.
And it really destroyed our relationship from my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
because I was the one kind of pushing her away, but I didn't. I mean, I kid you not. I mean, that's the toughest thing I have to deal with right now. Well, not the toughest. It was the first real trauma with, losing something I really, really cared about. That was the very
Right.
first one. And it was hard. It was because of the military.
Right.
So I think
Now,
family
would you
is
say it was
important.
because of the military or because you weren't well adjusted to that part of the military lifestyle?
Well, that wasn't my first deployment. I told you this was
Oh,
after
right.
like 9 some odd years in the military.
Ugh,
That was
that's
just my
worse.
toughest deployment
Mm.
because that one happened when I was in the reserves after I got off active duty. I got
Now,
called back in.
oh, okay. So would you say, and I don't want you to relive it at all, that's
Sure,
not my
sure.
intent here, is looking back on it, because one of the things that I know, the issues that I had, I feel like if I would have shared my feelings with someone a lot sooner, it would have been better. That transition would have been a whole lot better. See, I just held everything in, tried to forget about it, and like I told you, because of the career path that I've chosen, there's a lot of former military there. That was a positive, but it was also a negative because I truly never let it go.
Sure, but isn't that what we do? Aren't we supposed to be tough in the military? Aren't we supposed to be trained where if we're captured, we're not supposed to give out any information? If we're
Right, right.
tortured, we're
Tough it
not.
out. Yeah.
So why would we communicate with anybody about feelings and things when we're not even supposed to tell anybody anything more than our social security number and our rank? I mean,
Right, right, right.
I think
Yep.
it's a real hard thing. I think a lot of people struggle with that. In fact, I've
Mm,
been involved in some local groups. We've been doing them on the internet now.
right,
But I've been involved with a lot of guys sharing some of their stories, which, it's always like, I've never told anybody this before. And my question is, why?
right,
Like, why are
right.
you holding all that in? I mean, what is it that's keeping you from sharing your emotions, your feelings, your experiences, because you have to get them out?
Mm-hmm.
If it's not somebody professional, it's somebody you trust. I mean, you can't live with that stuff inside
Right.
because
Yeah,
all you do
I
is
agree.
relive the war all over again.
That's it. That's it. That's why we always say seek help, seek counsel. It
Sure.
it helps tremendously.
And just for anybody out there listening that's, that maybe this is touching a nerve or touching something with them, you're not the only ones. I mean, there's a lot of you out there that, that for some reason think it's a weakness to share
Right,
your experiences. And that's really not the case. I mean,
right.
it's not the case.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly, man.
Yeah.
But
And you can even do anonymous. There's anonymous sources. You can just call
yes.
people up anonymously who don't even know who you are and
Mm-hmm.
say, look, this is really bugging me. Because let's be real. I mean, you know, I know people mean well, and they want to talk about like a suicide hotline, and like
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never thought about suicide on this end of the deployment stuff after post military stuff. Like, let me relate it to. Well, I don't want to share too much, but I lost my wife. My wife had she died of cancer. And one of the things I heard a lot, it's been many years now, so, but one of the things I heard a lot is Jim, if you need anything, let me know.
Right.
And I have to tell you, even though people mean well, it's the stupidest thing in the world because if I need something, I'm not going to pick up my phone, scroll through the thing, say, hey, who can I call if I need something? That's not how it works. Just like a lot of these veterans dealing with these stories and these emotions, you need the people around them to be like, hey, I love you. Let's talk about it.
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? So I challenge the people who know military people to be more present in their life. Obviously, you can't force people in it, but if you know someone, you know, be there for them. You don't have to force them to talk, but you got to be there for them. Sometimes
Just
just
have a
sitting in the same
conversation.
room is plenty.
Yeah, just have a conversation because when you say if you need something, let me know. Now you're putting everything on them, and if something happens, and so well, I told him or her if they needed something, just let me know. Yeah, but
Well,
they don't at that moment. They don't know.
well, I'll give you a good analogy. I'll give you a good. I heard it once from a pastor in church. He said, imagine yourself. You just lost a spouse, or you're going through some trouble, and your friend calls up and says, hey, so and so, I got 30 minutes to talk. I'm coming over. What kind of pizza do your kids like? And you're like, no, 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 it's okay. They don't need the pizza. Look, I got 30 minutes to give you. What kind of pizza do your kids like? Cheese pizza, whatever. So that's a great gesture, right? Now
Right.
imagine the reverse. Hey, I'm feeling kind of lonely. Can you come over and bring my kids some pizza? Like,
Mm,
who is going to do that?
right.
I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
not helping anybody by saying, hey, if you need anything, let me know.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you know this person, you know what they need, even if it's a conversation, give them a call, stop by.
Yeah.
If it's a meal, bring them a meal. If whatever it is, you know these people, you need to help the people.
Yeah. And if all you're doing is giving them the opportunity to release,
Yes.
and that's the most important.
And
That
not
you're giving them someone to talk to. And
sure.
even if they don't, even if you just sit there quiet, I've done it, and have a beer, have a drink, or just sit there and watch a show together,
Right.
or the game. All right. Sooner or later, you're building up that rapport with them. And sooner or later, you just never know. They just might release some information, and then it's just gonna give them that woosah moment, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And to your point, and going back to like our disclaimer and all that, not every veteran's gonna want the same thing, need the same things.
Right.
Sometimes they're like, no, I just want to be left alone. But that
Hmm.
doesn't mean you can't reach out and say, hey, just thinking about you, I'm still here if you need me.
Right.
Just text, message,
I
what,
was just about to say that.
just
Yeah.
reaching out lets them know somebody still cares about them.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know, this isn't just veteran related, but there's a lot of depression in this world today. I mean,
Yeah.
you can see it because that's why Facebook is so popular and all
Yeah.
these TikToks and all these stupid social media garbage.
Right.
Because people are so lonely, they're reaching out, and yet the best thing you could do is what? Like their thing? I mean, come
Right.
on, like what does that do?
Yeah.
It gives them a little bit of, hey, somebody liked my thing, but in reality, they just need to know you care enough. So find people. I challenge all you. Find people, whether veteran, not veteran. Just find people in your life and let them know you care. Let them know you
Yeah.
appreciate them.
Just talk to them. Talk to
Exactly.
them. And if once you build that rapport, ask them about their service. As long as it's, don't try to delve into that wartime stuff,
Sure.
because you don't want to strike a nerve or something like that. But just the slightest little thing helps them out, man. And this goes to everyone else. Like you said, you touched on it also. If certain other professions out there, people are stressed out,
Right.
especially with everything that's going on in the world today. People are stressed out with their jobs, whether they're a manager somewhere, not even a manager, maybe some wages got cut or something. Know your surroundings, know your people, especially if you're friends with them and family members.
Right.
Just reach out.
You consider yourself an introvert or an extrovert?
Both.
All right. That's like not really, that sounds very contradictory.
No. When I meet new people, I'm an extrovert, but once I get to know you, I'm an introvert when I meet
So
new
you're a little
people.
shy, but once you get to know
No,
people,
I'm not shy. Don't ever
you
call
look
me shy.
shy.
But no, just reach out to people, get them help.
Well,
You can be the help.
I want to touch on that because I'm an extrovert and I get what you're saying. I don't consider myself
You
at
are not
all.
an extrovert, Jim. No.
All right, I'm annoying. Okay, I'm an annoying talker, sometimes called extroverts, but I can talk to anybody. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm very apprehensive at first, like you. So I don't consider that introvert. I think that's optimistically cautious that I want to talk to people, but I definitely want to gauge what
Okay.
I'm talking to.
You using that right there. Thanks for that clarity. But yeah, I'm an extrovert.
Like I'll be in the back of someone at the grocery store, and I'll kind of feel out the situation. Is it angry? Is it, I mean, like what's going on? But ultimately, if I find an in or a way in, I'm going to talk to them.
Right.
And sometimes I find it that they're very irritated because they have to wait in line or there's no more milk or something like that. And I'll try to find an in, something to make it all funny. I'm not always successful because some people really don't want to be bothered. And
Right.
then I just have to shut my mouth and not bother them. But
Mm.
I'm bringing this up because sometimes you have no idea the impact you make just by a small conversation or comment. You can completely change a person's life, day, moment, whatever it is, just when they think somebody cares about them.
Yes.
Especially if you look on the conveyor belt and there's like duct tape and kerosene and things like that. You might want to say something.
A shovel, some
So,
line,
right,
rope, plastic
right.
bags,
Exactly.
a tarp. Yeah.
Exactly. You might want to interject by like, hey, you going camping?
Yeah. Exactly.
You could have got this cheaper at Home Depot.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Hey,
I want to emphasize that, people, we have a culture now that, I mean, I guess if you can call it an American culture, everybody's just a little too selfish and a little too busy. And
mm,
I think we can have a whole
mm.
topic on that. So we don't need to
Yeah,
badger it,
that
but
that was gonna be one of my pull the pin segments.
just
But
sure. So
yeah,
we
yeah.
definitely need to be a little more, we need to slow down a little bit. We need to be a little more compassionate, just understand what other people might be going through. And I know it's not easy because I do it
Yeah,
too,
yeah. We're all
I,
guilty of it.
I could be a hypocrite, get behind a slow driver and be like, hey, dude, move. And then somebody pulls up behind me and I'll be like, why don't you wait?
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Have some patience, won't
yeah,
you? Yeah.
exactly. So I'm not gonna sit here and pretend I'm not guilty of it, but I
Right.
do feel some guilt when I do it. So at
Right.
least I'm on the right track.
Yep. It's funny how sometimes, and I noticed that about me also. So it's helped me be a better person. And using the driving reference, some people would do something, and I can always relate to sometime month, 6 months where I did the same exact thing.
Right,
So I don't get upset. I say, hey, it's
right,
just coming back on you.
right.
You know what I mean?
Or when you do those stupid things and you feel really bad, you kind of like wave to the driver, even though you
And
know
they
they
can't
can't see
see you,
you.
but it makes you feel good.
Right, right, right.
It's like it's the same thing, Jim. That's what we're talking about. If you need something, let me
Yeah,
know.
exactly. So that's more like clearing your own guilt. It's not
Exactly.
exactly helping
Yeah.
anybody, it's clearing your own
Right.
guilt.
Right.
Yeah, so it's kind
I
of
like
got
the way
used
we
to.
tied that together. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you really consider yourself an extrovert there? I don't. I don't see you as being that though.
I don't even want to hear what you consider it.
Nah. Nah. Um. I wish. I will say this. I wish more people, when meeting someone, had the same encounter we did when we first met at Fort Hood. You
Wow,
get what I'm saying?
I'm gonna have to think hard on that one
Yeah,
because
do it, do it. Just think back to when we met and what you were thinking. We talked about this, so that's why I say don't respond now if you don't really remember.
no, yeah, you're gonna have to refresh my
Really?
memory because
Okay, off camera. Oh man, you just
yeah,
messed up the whole thing, man.
yeah, because
God.
I have good fun memories of you because you were there for me. Like you had my back. Like I could say
Yeah, but
even
in
if
the
I
beginning, you didn't think I would.
yeah I don't remember that
No,
honestly. I don't
really?
remember that. But
Well,
that's
you slept
because
since then. Yeah.
well yeah I slept a couple nights. But also I can't lie. My personality I'm from Jersey, dude.
Right.
I'm cynical and judgmental right out the gate.
Yeah.
So I'm always going to be a judgmental, but that's something I have to get under control and do the things I'm talking about. I'm like,
Mm.
I may instantly judge something or someone, but I still have to reach out and say, hey, how's it going?
Right.
You know what
Right.
I mean? So I'm not going to like sit here and pretend, I'm not a hypocrite or, well, I guess we're all hypocrites in some way, but I'm not going to sit here, hey, you need to talk to people. But, I do go through a process, but that's
Right.
my process.
Yeah.
And if for some reason I didn't think you were going to do that, you probably gave me a good reason.
No, other people did.
Oh, well, then,
Yeah.
was it other
See.
people I trusted?
Yeah. Your leadership.
Well, okay, then, well, fair
So
enough.
you
I
you
mean,
you brought it,
but
you were very apprehensive about bringing the topic up to me, what your intentions were or what you wanted, right? And then when I started to go to bat for you, you're like, wow, I didn't even
well, let
expect
me
that,
ask you a
you know?
question though. Did I do it?
What did you do? What?
Did I bring it to you? Did I?
Yeah, you did.
So I
Yeah.
just proved what I just said. That's my point. That's what
Exactly.
I do. I will be apprehensive, no
Yeah.
different than, anywhere I go that's a new place, a new environment. I feel it out. I don't really, get involved yet until I do feel that comfort.
Right. And
So,
that goes along with what I'm talking about, how
right,
well, since we just talked about it, right?
right. Well, we
um,
are quick to judge people, but
yeah.
I'm not opposed to judge. I hear, let me just get this on the table. I hear people all the time say, well, who are you to judge? And
Hmm.
I have a problem with that because I think I'm me. I get to
Right.
judge.
Right.
And I don't think there's any problem with judging people. I think the problem is when you try to condemn people based on your judgment.
Mm,
So you have the right to judge anything you want. If that ice looks thin, you're not going to step on it because you're using good judgment.
right.
But you just can't say, well, that ice is too thin.
Right.
You throw a rock on it, right?
Right, right.
So you still test it, even though your judgment was made, you don't condemn the ice. And
Right,
I think that's the difference with me. Like when people say, who are you to judge? Let me tell you, we all judge.
right.
We all have a
And that's
standard.
not just
We
us
judge.
as vets. That's
Right,
everyone.
correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
everyone.
So if I receive information that leads me to believe you're some kind of way, and then I approach you or I evaluate your demeanor, that may validate it.
Right.
But ultimately, I have to put it to the test, and which is what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not here trying to tell you I don't judge people or whatever. I do exactly that to the people in the grocery line. I
Right.
judge them, but then
Right.
I compare that judgment to their demeanor.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, I still try to push a way through to give them the opportunity to validate
Right.
my judgment,
Now, whether your judgment is negative or positive.
regardless.
Right. Okay.
Regardless. If you think somebody, the popular kid in high school, you think he's the coolest kid, everybody loves him. I got to be this guy's friend. I got to be this guy's friend. So you go out of your way, you be his friend. And all of a sudden you find out this guy's a jerk. He's a
Right.
selfish jerk that doesn't care about anybody but himself.
I
That's what
think a
selfish
lot of
is.
the people who, when they use that term, well, who are you? Who are you to judge? That's kind of personal. But when they say things like, well, you shouldn't judge people,
Right.
you know what I mean? It's
Right.
without getting to know someone.
Well, then you
But
finish it.
you're
Then finish it. Then say that.
yeah,
Don't say you
exactly.
shouldn't judge people because we
Right.
judge everything all day long.
Right.
You
Everything
judge
and everyone.
you judge your clothing based on the weather.
Right.
Maybe you
Yeah.
could give it a different word. Maybe it's just parsing words, it's
Right.
semantics.
Right.
But the way I look at judging is I do it all the time.
Well, now just to reel it back into our show now that's a part of the training though.
Sure.
Yeah, that's a part of
But
our
it, but
training. Army
it
wide, well, military and job specific with us being former military police.
sure. Well,
Yeah,
we're constant situational awareness. I mean, that's
exactly.
a constant thing.
Yeah,
And I have to explain that to people sometimes too, that some of my habits, I don't really like them, but they're habits. I mean, I do
right.
this because that's what I've been doing for so many years. We all are like that.
Yeah, and what we have to realize, Jim, is once again bringing it back, is that when you do it, others do it, but you can
Sure.
work through it. Especially now when you get out the military, life after the military, right? So you have to realize not everyone is a vet, and
Right.
not everyone understands what vets have gone through.
Right. And I also understand that my neighbors may think badly of veterans, may
Yeah,
think veterans, but that's where I still say the challenge is no matter what your judgment is, you need to do something to confirm that. Now,
right,
if my neighbors were more hospitable and they said, gee, this guy's a jerk,
right.
then you don't have to be a good neighbor because you've already confirmed your judgment.
Yeah,
Now you're condemning me for who I am.
right,
And that's what I'm saying. I'm merely saying that, even in the scenario, what I spoke about, you have to get through the judgment part. There has to be some other action.
right.
And people tend to be a little, they resist themselves to being in the situation because they take their judgment. They just assume and that's it. They put their head down and
Right.
that's it. I don't want to be confrontational. I don't want to, I don't want to, sometimes I don't even want to know the truth
That's true.
because it's easier just to not talk to you.
Yeah.
You
And
know?
some people, getting back to the word judging, they'll judge you, right, based off of one little thing that
Right.
they don't even want to get to know the rest of you,
Right.
right? Some people might think all vets are a-holes.
Right.
And then as soon as you pull the pin segment, let your grass grow a little tall, you
Right.
know? Oh yeah, I knew that about those vets.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and that's the, when you talk about judging, don't judge. That's the part that I can relate to.
Right. And I'll even go a step further. And I don't expect people to do it, but I think the more you try, even like we were talking about, like just messaging somebody, even if
Yes.
they don't want to be alone, the more you try, the more you start to understand the depth of these people. You might even be confused on their behavior during a certain
Right.
incident.
Right.
You could
Right.
be reading them completely wrong. Like
Yeah.
if I answer my door with my gun in my hand, you might be like, this guy's a psycho, crazy,
Yes.
but you have no idea what I went through.
Exactly.
So that doesn't mean I don't like you. I mean, if
Right.
you're trying to solicit and sell me something, there's a good chance.
Yeah.
But,
Spam.
right. It doesn't mean I don't like you. That's my experiences. So you get to know me. And if I trust you, I'm going to let you around my family. I'm going to let you near my house without, you know, any threat to your life.
Right. I
Not that I,
agree.
not that I
I
go around
agree.
threatening people, but
Right.
this
Well,
is my,
you're a vet.
this is my bunker, right? This is my
Yeah.
safe space. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
my,
Show me you're safe.
my house is where I'm supposed to be safe and protect, right?
That's right.
So
That's
yeah.
right. That's your castle, brother.
All right. Well, I mean, if you want to wrap this up, we can. What do we want to, say?
No, we're not gonna. We'll temporarily pull the pin on this one. I think this is a good topic. I think it's gonna come back.
Yeah, I think it could come back in different ways. So,
Yeah.
but as far as today's show goes, let's pull a pin on it right now. Let's
Okay.
give a final assessment though. Military light or transition, easy and hard depending who you are. But I think a lot
Uh.
of people need
Yeah.
to be involved in it, regardless
Yes.
of whether
You
it's
have to have that,
military.
and I think the word you used earlier was network. You have to have that network, and there's a lot of. You have to seek out those programs, and there's a lot out there. And go to the VA.
Sure.
Yeah,
All
that's where
right.
you get a lot of information. It'll help.
Awesome. Awesome. So let's go move on to our favorite segment, the namesake. Pull the pin already. If again for you guys that don't know, it's where we just kind of bring up something that irritates us out in the regular daily life, and
Serious topics.
it could be whatever you want. So
Serious topics.
yeah, of course, Mike. So now you have the honor going first.
Uh, Jim, I know you never had this problem. Okay.
I love your dramatic readings. I just love them.
Why do we have to cut the grass? I just have to know. And why can't it be 4 inches or 6 inches? Because some grass, when it's 6 inches tall, is beautiful. But these neighborhoods, homeowners associate, they don't understand the grass etiquette like I do. The only thing they know, tall grass is bad. That judging. You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
Like if you look at Bermuda, you can't let that grow too high because then the fungus comes in. It fescue. If it grows tall, it starts to wave with the wind. It's beautiful. Why do we have to cut the grass? Now, for those people, just like what you're about to say, I can read your lips, man. You're one of the, you're one of those people. I know it. But for people who say you need to cut your grass down to 2 inches, 3 inches, I say I'd like to hand you the grenade and I'll pull the pin. Thank you.
Well, I do actually have an answer for you why we need to cut the grass.
Oh, just damn. Why is that, Jim?
It's the reason the grass is green and the sky is blue, right? So we know the difference. The longer your grass gets, the less sky we see, right? I mean, do you want everybody to have a corn maze in their backyard?
They should, because that's more oxygen.
Okay, fair enough. And I'm not going to argue with you because I hate cutting grass. So I'm
Right,
definitely going to support you on this one. All right. Well, mine is something that's more recent.
Oh, God.
The save the world thing again, paper straws.
Ooh.
Paper straws. Well, here's the crazy part. This is the crazy part I want to get in. Some places, and I think it's for sanitary reasons, did away with plastic straws to go to paper straws and put the paper straws in plastic wrapping. So
I've never seen that.
So forget about the plastic. Have you ever drank with a paper straw?
Yes.
It's like chewing mashed potatoes. I mean, it's just, and if you let it sit long enough, it's no longer a straw. I know they try their hardest, but I don't even want to know what they keep in it to keep it strong enough because
Right.
it's probably not paper. But if it is, I sound like an ignorant fool. But either way, stop with the paper straw stuff. If anything, I'd rather not even have a straw. Just tell people, no, you got to drink out of the cup. The
There you
paper
go.
cup or
Right.
a plastic cup. I do get plastic cups with paper straws.
Right.
So I'm
Right.
kind of lost in the whole delusion thing. But hopefully, I saved a couple years on this world by drinking from that paper straw.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
You did your part.
So that's my pull the pin already. So I guess to wrap that all up,
Hey, I have a question for you.
what's that?
Did you know that in Austin, You cannot sell a drink with a plastic straw. It has to be a paper straw.
Yeah, I didn't know Austin specifically, but I know there's this certain coffee place that starts every new fad that saves the world. And it's, let me tell you, it's ridiculous.
Right.
I have to pay a ridiculous amount of money for a cup of smoking, joking, whatever you want to
Yeah.
call it, with a
Yeah.
touch of everything.
Yeah.
And then they hand me a plastic straw.
Right.
I should get a refund on some of this drink
Yes.
because I'm
Yes.
saving the environment.
Exactly.
But no,
Or the price of the drink should go down.
yes,
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
Yes, in my meltable straw with my meltable cup. I hope I don't get anything hot in it, you know.
Yeah.
Anyways, I'm not picking on them anymore. So we are going to do away with paper straws and short grass. I mean, unless
Pull
you
the
choose
pin,
it,
buddy.
right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Pull the pin.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us here. Pull the pin already. We hope you had as much fun as we did. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or whatever else you want to do. But most importantly, leave a comment below and let us know how you feel. And until next time, Godspeed.
And pull the pin.